late. Michelle Obama surprised fans on our new podcast by saying her pet peeve about her husband is that he's chronically late. For example, we're still waiting on him to admit he's from Kenya. And as for Barack's pet peeve about Michelle, he's mad that she keeps leaving the toilet seat up. When she cleans it. When she cleans it. Goodness. Rumors continue to escalate for the Obamas. Hopefully they can settle it like men.
Just when you thought the Obamas had perfected the art of public poise, Michelle detonates a revelation that fractures the facade. A seemingly harmless joke about lateness suddenly spirals into a cultural lightning rod, rekindling whispers, reigniting controversy, and cracking open a vault of long-buried rumors. Greg Gutfeld doesn't miss a beat. With surgical sarcasm and an arsenal of unapologetic wit, he dissects the carefully curated mythos surrounding America's once flawless first couple. This isn't just late-night comedy. It's a masterclass in dismantling political sanctimony with surgical flair. The toilet seat may be up, but the mask is finally down.
Obama's new podcast is off to a slow start, ranked at number 34 on Spotify. In her defense, most people don't like her.
Half of them are probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, he had to adjust to what on time was for me.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3 o'clock, he's getting up and going to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, like 3 o'clock departure means you've done all that, It's like, don't start looking for your glasses.
The carefully burnished legacy of Michelle Obama encounters another fracture. This time self-inflicted, as her podcast debut underwhelms with a dismal ranking and a disoriented narrative. Rather than commanding influence, she resorts to divulging trivial domestic irritations, hoping to humanize what many perceive as a detached persona. But the attempt at relatability only magnifies the underlying disconnect. From critiques of Barack's tardiness to island time anecdotes that reek of rehearsed spontaneity, the veneer of authenticity grows thinner with every overshare. Greg Gutfeld, never one to miss an exposed thread, seizes the moment with precision satire, turning Michelle's own words into a portrait of performative vulnerability wrapped in branded banality.
Have to use our voices to make these choices clear to the men that we love. Our lives are worth more than their anger and disappointment.
What's that pitter-patter sound I'm hearing in the background? It's the footsteps of Barack running to vote for Trump.
When virtue signaling morphs into emotional choreography, Michelle Obama takes the stage once more, weaving pleas for moral clarity into a narrative that tiptoes dangerously close to melodrama. Her impassioned rhetoric, cloaked in conviction, aims to mobilize the hearts of men through guilt, grief, and guided urgency. But as the orchestral music swells and her words hang heavy in the air, the irony thunders louder, the faint echo of footsteps, perhaps even Barack's, symbolizing not unity, but disillusionment. Greg Gutfeld weaponizes the absurdity with surgical mockery, exposing the chasm between manufactured sentiment and lived sincerity. What was intended as a rallying cry dissolves into an unintentional parody, and America watches, amused.
Even if they run Michelle. According to a new poll, Michelle Obama isn't as strong a Democratic candidate against former President Donald Trump as many Dems would have you believe. In a hypothetical matchup, my favorite kind, Trump wins with 47% of the vote compared to Michelle Obama's 44%. I guess some of the kids whose school lunches she ruined are finally old enough to...
The mythology of Michelle Obama as an unstoppable political force encounters a sobering recalibration. Once portrayed as the emblem of authenticity, the down-to-earth matriarch from Chicago's South Side she now finds herself eclipsed in hypothetical matchups and haunted by a legacy of overexposure. What began as a vegetable garden initiative quietly mutated into a corporate empire adorned with luxury endorsements, astronomical speaking fees, and Netflix deals that rival national defense budgets. Greg Gutfeld doesn't merely question her relatability, he obliterates it, revealing a figure not marginalized by the establishment, but masterfully monetizing it. The irony is exquisite. The outsider act performed flawlessly by someone who franchised the very system she pretended to challenge. As polling dips and illusions fade, the prospect of her candidacy isn't just risky, it's rhetorically radioactive. A loss to Trump wouldn't just sting, it would detonate her legacy.
No, I don't think she can. I think you said this before, Tyra. She can't run because if she were to lose to Trump, it would be the most humiliating, loss in history.
Well, not just, I don't know if I think I said that and you added that, but we'll take.
You also said that I look great.
Listen, Republicans, she just kicked our ass. She's up 15 points. I noticed this weekend. I'm just going to speak on it. We can't play with a lead. Every time Republicans, we get a lead, we do something.
Michelle Obama's rhetoric has now fully graduated from subtle persuasion to accusatory sermon, casting American men as volatile liabilities in the democratic process. Draped in sanctimony and strategic victimhood, her warning isn't a plea, it's an indictment. Beneath the emotive cadence lies a message engineered to weaponize fear, fragment gender unity, and politicize familial bonds. But Greg Gutfeld peels back the emotionally charged veneer to reveal the deeper manipulation. A narrative where dissent is painted as danger and masculine conviction is equated with domestic threat. It's not advocacy, it's ideological gaslighting. Michelle doesn't just challenge political opposition, she pathologizes it. And in doing so, she doesn't unite, she alienates. The collateral damage may not be women, it might just be her credibility.
Michelle thinks American men suck.
Let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage. To the women listening.
In yet another ideological pivot, cloaked as moral enlightenment, Michelle Obama redirects the nation's discontent toward a new manufactured villain. Not the felon, not the foreign infiltrator, but the domestic dissenter. With selective outrage and rhetorical sleight of hand, she reframes democratic participation as a threat when exercised by those outside her ideological echo chamber. The nuance evaporates. Disagreement becomes danger. Greg Gutfeld, ever the scalpel in a room full of hammers, dismantles the projection with biting clarity, pointing out that the so-called male rage she decries is often born not from privilege, but from pressure, economic suffocation, familial despair, and a system that shames masculine frustration while monetizing female grievance. The irony: the lecture comes from within a mansion, not a mortgage. And once again, performance eclipses reality, brilliantly, tragically, and unmistakably.
Gay man. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, Tyrus. The men who are the real danger aren't the criminals or the illegal aliens. It's the guys that don't vote the way you want them to.
The ignorance that she projected as if the men are the only ones angry in the house. So every man who's been in a house where inflation's high, the electric bill's doubled, you're not getting cheers from the wife and kids. They're complaining, they're suffering.
For a figure sculpted by years of glowing media coverage, celebrity adoration, and institutional endorsement, Michelle Obama's polling performance is nothing short of a political anticlimax. The expectation was stratospheric, a charismatic juggernaut poised to eclipse the aging establishment. Yet reality delivers a sobering verdict. Enthusiasm is tepid, traction is minimal, and even her presumed allies remain unconvinced. Greg Gutfeld masterfully dissects the dissonance, highlighting how brand recognition does not translate into electability when substance is overshadowed by spectacle. The myth of Michelle as the inevitable savior of the left is unraveling, thread by thread, revealing not a powerhouse in waiting, but a carefully manufactured persona, encountering the limits of its own mythology. Charm fades, slogans stale, and when the curtain lifts, voters are left staring at packaging without a promise.
Heather, were you surprised that Michelle Obama is not polling better? Because I assumed she would just explode.
No, I mean, well, I would expect her to do better than Biden. I mean, especially she's of a younger age, I think greater mental capacity. And the way the border is going, I don't think you can get much worse. However, it is surprising that even among independents and as well as Democrats overall, not any.
In a political landscape saturated with moral grandstanding and emotional leverage, the emerging reality is far less theatrical and far more disruptive. The narrative that men act irrationally while women recoil in silent disagreement is collapsing under the weight of lived experience. As Greg Gutfeld underscores, it's not unilateral rage, it's bilateral resolve. The so-called toxic masculinity turns out to be strategic dissent, and the women supposedly oppressed by it, they're endorsing it. The unity is inconvenient for the progressive storyline, because it defies the archetypes, the villainous male voter, and the enlightened female conscience. Instead, couples are aligned, families are frustrated, and the political left is running out of scapegoats. What once passed as gendered moral superiority now resembles ideological laziness, and Gutfeld, with surgical irreverence, hands them their script back, rewritten and dismantled.
Is not one-sided. It's just the men are the ones trying the solution, and their solution is to vote for President Trump. And here's the thing, their women are backing them up. So take that little message, curl it up in a little box, and give it to Mr. Garrison.
Michelle Obama's reluctant appearances on the campaign trail have begun to feel less like strategic endorsements and more like theatrical obligations, hollow, strained, and laced with unspoken regret. As Greg Gutfeld hilariously observes, her energy resembles that of a bridesmaid delivering a toast at a wedding no one believes in. Awkwardly supportive, quietly disillusioned, and unmistakably disengaged. Behind the polished facade and forced smiles lies the unmistakable aura of political exhaustion, not passion. The symbolism is damning. A woman, once revered as a cultural oracle, now reduced to a ceremonial figurehead for a party in disarray. The enthusiasm is performative, the loyalty contractual, and the charisma evaporating. In a political season begging for authenticity, Michelle's campaign cameos land not as inspiration, but as a masterclass in muted regret.
But you can tell when she campaigns for Kamala, she looks like a bridesmaid giving a toast on her friend's 5th wedding.
Right.
Like she knows this is a bad idea and no one gives a The only thing she's missing is a Cosmo and the hiccups.
In a moment intended to be endearing, Michelle Obama casually admits to marrying a man who was at the time financially unstable, a quip delivered with charm, but echoing with contradiction. What begins as self-deprecating humor morphs under Greg Gutfeld's lens into a revealing glimpse behind the mythos. For years, the Obamas have been positioned as paragons of aspirational success, yet here lies the paradox. The very narrative that champions independence and empowerment leans heavily on romanticized struggle, sanitized for applause, stripped of consequence. Gutfeld doesn't mock the moment. He excavates it, exposing how even the humblest anecdotes are deployed with precision to uphold a larger brand. Relatability has become performance art, and in this scene, vulnerability is not confessed, it is choreographed.
Would you be attracted to a guy who's not financially sound when you meet him?
I married one.
Don't you like that?
The Democratic narrative, increasingly saturated with moral scolding and victim-centric rhetoric, continues to miscalculate its audience, particularly men. Michelle Obama's insistence that male voters are actively harming women by supporting Trump reflects not strategic messaging, but ideological insulation. As Greg Gutfeld deftly exposes, this isn't political outreach, it's moral condescension dressed as empowerment. The failure lies not in the argument itself, but in the arrogant assumption that shame is still a persuasive tool. Americans aren't rejecting women. They're rejecting lectures. The backlash isn't misogyny, it's exhaustion. Voters are no longer willing to be pathologized by elites who preach from podiums built on curated grievance. The disconnect isn't accidental, it's structural. And every time Michelle leans into that sanctimonious tone, she pushes away the very demographic her party claims to understand.